Hello, welcome back to Art in Quarantine with Arts Etobicoke. My name is Marjan Verstappen and today I'm making paint with corn syrup and food dye, and the results are so beautiful. I'm very excited to show you this, but I just want to tell you there's a couple of things about it I just want to tell you before we start. Can you see that? Ooh, so here's a painting I made earlier, and I want to improve on it. I'm going to do another one for you now, but you see how, so the corn syrup it dries super shiny. This is dry, it looks wet. It takes quite a long time to dry. It takes about 12 hours, or if it's thick in some places, a couple of days. But in the end it dries, see, and when it dries really glossy. The food coloring is very strong. It makes beautiful, transparent colors, and I think the best way to describe it is that it's a little bit like watercolor in slow motion. So what I found here is that it makes incredible abstracts. When I was doing this, I was trying to make, a bunch of flowers or something, and see, these are the petals and these are the leaves. And what happens is that the paint keeps running and moving until it dries. And because it takes quite a long time to dry, the results are a little bit hard to predict. But I just love the colors. I think it has huge potential, and I'm going to keep exploring how to use it. But I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but I think it's easier as you paint. I think it's easier to start with something that uses really bold colors and maybe doesn't use too much detail, because you probably won't be able to achieve the detail that you want. But what you'll get is something phenomenal that you didn't expect. So that's the kind of painting we're going to do. And I might keep experimenting and do a couple more, follow up with this technique in a couple more videos, because I think there's more potential here. And I really want to hear about how you all found it and what you got made. So let's get started anyway. So the first thing you're going to need is some food coloring or food dye. I've got two different types here just to try them out. In my test so far, I haven't found that one is better than the other, but food dye, you're going to need it. I have a couple of eyedroppers. They're optional, you don't have to have them, but they're handy for dripping things on and off the paper. I didn't think I had any of these at home, and then I realized that I had some face serums that had ran out. So I washed them out, and they're really helpful as well. I've got some little jars here that I was keeping spices in that I've used to put my pre-mixed paint in. And it just keeps it dry so I can use it again if I want to keep working on a painting in a few days' time. So you might want some little jars to keep your paint in. And you're going to need some corn syrup. This is just ordinary corn syrup that you buy at the grocery store. It could be clear, it's okay if it's brown. It's also okay if it's maple flavored or, what have you. It might mean your paint smells a bit of maple, but that's not a big deal, right? This is Canada after all. I've got some craft sticks here. These are for mixing the paint. If you don't have craft sticks, then you can use pretty much anything else. You can use a spoon if you like. The nice thing about this activity is that everything we're using is food safe, so you can just wash it afterwards and keep using it. You can use things from your kitchen to mix things or clean things up, and it's not a big deal. So I've got some little Tupperware containers. I'm going to use these to mix my paint. I'm going to want to stick down my paper on the table, so I've got some painter's tape here to do that. And I've also got a few brushes. If you've got makeup brushes or nail polish brushes, these are good too. If you have makeup sponges, they're great as well. So first up, we're going to mix the paint. I've got my two color ranges laid out here. Now, there's a bit of flexibility about how much corn syrup to how much color you put. I prefer to mix my colors strong rather than mix them too weak. And also remember that it'll make more sense when we start painting, but these colors are very transparent. So I think I just prefer stronger color in general. So I'm gonna just now. Before I start, I'm not wearing gloves. You might want to wear gloves. If you get the food coloring on your hands, it will wash off. It might take a couple of washes. I'm pretty sure food coloring stains clothes, so you might want to wear a paint shirt if you're worried about getting it on your clothes. Anyway, I'm just gonna squeeze out a little bit. You don't need too much at once. The color goes quite far. And then how about I haven't tried these colors yet. I want to make I think this is pink. I think this is neon pink. So I'm gonna drip some in here. Maybe it's red. I'm not quite sure. Let's just see what color we get. And I'm throwing in quite a bit of color of the food coloring, and then I'm just gonna mix it up with my craft stick. Ooh. See how well it mixes together? So it's quite easy to mix, and we want them fairly thoroughly mixed. Oh, can you see that? I think that's a bright pink color. I mean, I don't know how it's coming up on the camera. I know it looks pretty red right now, but I've got a feeling that when we put that on the paper, it's going to be bright pink. I guess we'll see what happens. What other color should I choose? Maybe, let's see. How about I try this other, I'm going to try this green. This is meant to be neon green. So we'll see how it looks. I mean, I don't know, maybe the neon colors don't work so well with brown corn syrup, but maybe I'll try a bit of this green. So squirt it out. Maybe I'll do a few drops less and go for a bright green. Oh, that's rather lovely, isn't it? Wow. So, I don't know. I've tried a few homemade paint recipes, and I like this one the best because the colors are so vibrant and so transparent. And oh, that's really vibrant. That's beautiful. Oh, I think we're going to have a good time, everybody. That's nice. So before I start painting, I just want to stick my paper down, and the reason I want to do this is so I get a nice crisp white border around the edge of my picture. And it stops my paper curling as the paint touches it, because you know how sometimes if you're painting with really wet paint, the paper will curl a little bit. It stops doing that, and it'll just give me this really nice crisp border around the edge of my paint, which is a look that I like. So here's my, just with my tape, I'm just trying to get it as straight as I can. And I might get back to you when I've done all 4 sides. So my paper is taped down and my paint is mixed and I'm ready to start painting. And the first thing I'm going to do, this might seem a bit strange, but what I really like, what this paint does well, I find, is that it blends really well when there's just a layer over the whole thing, over the whole piece of paper. So, and you can do a layer of color, of one color. I've experimented with that with blue before, but for this one, I just want a clear layer. So, I mean, I know this is not quite clear, but I'm just going to do a layer of, just a thin layer of corn syrup over the whole thing. So I'm just going to take my brush and just do a thin layer over the whole thing of this corn syrup. Yeah, so my paper is totally covered in corn syrup, and yeah, I'm just gonna paint a beautiful flower. That's what I want to paint today. So I think I'll use this new pink I just mixed before. So I'm gonna drip some of this pink on first. You see now I've done a layer of corn syrup over the top. You see how beautifully that just drips on and spreads? It's such an amazing color. And we don't want to, it's going to keep spreading until it dries. And this stuff takes about 12 hours to dry. So it's really, really important that we don't put too much on at once, because it's going to cover the whole page pretty much. It just keeps running. Oh, I love the way it blends. It's so bright. You know, it's really hard to get colors like this with good paints. So I'm impressed we can do it here with food coloring and corn syrup. So you might be wondering why I'm not using my brush yet, and I can right now. I just quite like the dripping effect, but I could put my brush in this and it would just kind of swirl on like that. I'm going to do that afterwards with all of it. Do you see how that turns out? I just quite like the texture of the brush, of the blobs on the paper. Alright, I'm going to add a few blobs of green as well. And I'm just going to let this keep running and see what it does in the meantime while I add the green. And then I'm going to go back and make some adjustments to it with my brush. So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of potential with this to use it for abstract painting. I'm showing you how to do some sort of abstract-ish flowers, but if you want to, I mean, you could spend hours just seeing what this is useful for. There's so much you can do. Wow, that's a very bright green. Look at that. So, I don't know, I just get very excited about color. Okay, so now I'm going to take my brush again, and I'm just, now that some of this pink is spread out beautifully, I'm just going to go in and just kind of push it around a little bit, and I can decide what what shape I want the petals to be. Bearing in mind that everything I do gets a little bit blurrier afterwards, because you see how everything just keeps spreading and keeps moving. So I'm going to just kind of just play with it. I mean, it's funny, and you know, I don't really mind. You know, flowers can look like anything, so I don't really mind if it doesn't look like exactly like a certain type of flower right off the bat. I'm just going to try and make it a bit soft and a bit petally looking, because the best paintings are very abstract up close. So here's how mine turned out once it's dry. And as you can see, it's still really different. You know, one thing I liked about this one compared to the other one I did is that it has a little bit less color. And I also found it interesting that the neon colors that I used and the ordinary shades I used don't mix very well. I found it turned brown and black in some places, and it's still running a lot. It's still this incredibly expressive medium. It's a bunch of flowers. I think I'd like to try it more for abstract than trying to do realistic stuff with it. I think it would be really interesting to do a very like dramatic seascape with a sky or something like that. But I'm still really excited about it just because of the colors and the interesting way it behaves and flows and blends. I would love for you to try it out and show me what you've made with it and just play around with it. If you're interested in doing that, it's just we get such wonderful colors when we do it, and it's so shiny. So I'm going to keep playing. I hope you do too. And please send me photos of what you've made so we can share them, or I can give you feedback even. And stay safe and stay home, people. Take care.